Let's bring in, we want to go back to Rick Grinnell, who was going to be with us a little bit earlier, coming out of the president and Emmanuel Macron's comments. He is the special envoy for special missions. Rick, great to have you with us. You know, one of the things that really stood out when we listened to President Macron and President Trump was this issue of a security guarantee for Ukraine as part of this deal. And it sounds like Europe is willing to provide some security guarantees, but Macron said it can't be like Minsk, the other two deals that ended up not providing that for Ukraine, and Russia rolled right over them. What do you think the United States' involvement in something like that would be? What did you glean from those conversations?
Well, Martha, you know me as a diplomat, not as somebody who's going to give you just the military angle. And I would really push people to think about security guarantees as not just from the Pentagon. There are other ways to make sure that there are some sort of guarantees that there's not going to be a war breaking out, military action. And I think that private equity folks on the ground and having economic development is one of the best ways to ensure that you're not going to have a war breakout. So I think that we've just got to think differently about what it means for a security guarantee. You're exactly right, though. Minsk and Minsk II, which Obama and Merkel put together, were really problematic. I think most people would agree that the Russians weren't really that serious about signing it. It fell apart pretty quickly. But remember, that was in 2014. And what did we do in September of 2014? We came together at the Wales NATO summit and we said, look, Russia has invaded into Crimea. Europe wasn't ready. So we need to make sure Europe is ready. And Europe has some sort of a security guarantee or some sort of a credible threat so that it deters any action from the Russians. And in 2014, that Wales pledge said, start paying up, start paying your 2%. Yep. And it was the Germans who raised their hand and said, well, we can pay our 2%, but it's going to be really difficult. So we need 10 years to do it. So in 2014, we gave NATO 10 years till 2024 to make sure that they could have a deterrent in a healthy military in Europe, throughout Europe, through NATO members, and they didn't do it. And we saw the Russians once again come into this area. But how many times do we have to warn Europe? I think the reality is if you want to be a member of NATO, then you should be a good member of NATO. Don't undercut NATO by not being prepared. Right. Start paying up and have a real military.
Well, I think that that message has been pretty loud and clear with the new Trump presidency, and it seems as though countries in Europe understand that it's a totally different dynamic, and that if they want to provide security for Europe, they're going to have to pony up. New leadership, obviously, in Germany as well, which I know you've been watching very closely as the former ambassador there. Rick, we were not expecting that we were going to have so much of our show by the press conference, but we were glad to have it. But we thank you for hopping in here. Very good to see you, Rick. Thanks so much.